I wish I found some better sounds no one's ever heard. I wish I had a better voice that sang some better words. I wish I found some chords in an order that is new. I wish I didn't have to rhyme every time I sang. I was told when I get older all my fears would shrink, but now I'm insecure and I care what people think.
My name's Blurry Face and I care what you think. My name's Blurry Face and I care what you think. Wish we could turn back time to the good old days when the mama sang us to sleep, but now we're stressed out. Wish we could turn back time to the good old days when the mama sang us to sleep, but now we're stressed out. We're stressed out.
Sometimes a certain smell will take me back to when I was young. How come I'm never able to identify where it's coming from? I'd make a candle out of it if I ever found it. Try to sell it, never sell out of it. I'd probably only sell one. Maybe to my brother, cause we have the same nose, same clothes, homegrown, a stone's throw from a creek we used to roam. But it would remind us of when nothing really mattered. Out of student loans and treehouse homes, we all would take the ladder.
My name's Blurry Face and I care what you think. My name's Blurry Face and I care what you think. Wish we could turn back time to the good old days when the mama sang us to sleep.
As an administrator, what's your view on freedom of speech concerning dress code?
Okay, I used to be an administrator, and I think as long as it doesn't incite violence or disrupt the learning environment, it's okay.
And concerning the case Tinker versus Des Moines, do you agree with the court's decision to rule in favor of the students?
I do. I don't think what the students were doing was disruptive. I've also been a government teacher, and I do believe in freedom of speech, but again, as long as it doesn't incite violence. I worked in North Carolina for several years, and there students are allowed to wear the Confederate flag T-shirts to school. And it wasn't a problem there, but one day a boy brought his Confederate flag to school and was waving it outside the school, and that caused a problem. So then I had to speak to him and his mother about that behavior.
And as an administrator, what is your opinion on the dress code violations?
So when we think about dress code, our main standard is, does what someone's wearing, can it detract from the learning environment? So we really try to see, can it distract others? Does it in any way impact teaching and learning that needs to take place in all of our classrooms? And so that's why our dress code is in place. We also have to consider and make sure that we don't promote any illegal substances, things that are illegal to minors, but also illegal to the general public. So those are, I would say, our main factors in considering dress code. I guess the third I would mention would be safety. So if something obviously poses a safety risk, then that would be an issue too.
If you were the principal at the school during this time, how would you have handled the situation?
So I think in the Tinker case, the issue was the armbands, right? So when you think about something like that, does it disrupt the educational process? Does it interfere with the teaching and learning environment? And so as long as that did not take place, I wouldn't have an issue with it. As long as we didn't have folks doing things in the classroom that was taken away and distracting, I wouldn't have a problem with it. It was not something that, it was an armband, it's not something that's distracting to others walking down the hall, it's not stuff that people are going to be distracted from, I don't think, in the classroom when teaching and learning is taking place, so I wouldn't have an issue with it.
And finally, do you agree with the court's decision to side with the students?
I do. I do. I think that was probably in this case, given the circumstances, I do think that was probably the right decision. It doesn't appear that it was impacting the educational environment at all, and that's our main standard in which we look at everything through.
What is your opinion on dress code concerning freedom of speech?
I think that's a really tough question because what violates one person's freedom of speech might enable another person's freedom of speech. So when it comes to the dress code, somebody might want to wear something that one would deem inappropriate, but it still would be a person's freedom of speech. I'd say overall there has to be some type of guideline so that both parties concerned would find it appealing.
Alright, if you were the principal at the school during the time, what would you have done?
I think I probably would have had some kind of intervention. I think that students should be given the right to wear armbands. I don't really see how that could have been distracting to the rest of the student population. So I think that I would have been a little more lenient when it came to that kind of scenario. I probably would have talked to the kids and brought them in and just maybe sat down to understand why and see if there's another form of protest that they might be able to do if it was really concerning to parents or other students, because there are always other alternatives that they could have used.
Okay, and finally, do you agree with the court's decision to side with the students?
I do. I think that it was right for them to agree with the students because I don't really find fault in anything that they did.
What is your opinion on dress code concerning freedom of speech?
I personally don't have an issue with people expressing themselves as far as freedom of speech. As far as the dress code is concerned, as long as it does not infringe on somebody else's beliefs.
Do you agree with the Supreme Court's decision to rule in favor of the students?
I do. I think if the students were protesting peacefully, then I don't see a problem.
And finally, do you agree with the quote that students do not shed their constitutional rights at the schoolhouse gates, which was said by the higher court?
I do agree with that. I think students have rights just like any American, any person has rights in the United States of America. At school, at home, I think everybody should have rights.
Okay. Knowing what we know now, would you have protested the Vietnam War?
Possibly.
And would you have gone so far as to wear the armband?
Probably.
From a student's perspective, do you feel like you have the freedom of speech concerning the dress code?
Yes, because we're citizens of the United States, so it's freedom of speech.
Do you feel like dress code's too strict?
Here? No.
You like it? Alright.
And what is your grade, ma'am?
9.
Knowing what we know now, would you have protested the war?
Yeah, probably. I think, it was kind of a loss of American lives for something that wasn't threatening us immediately. So,
Would you have gone so far as worn the black armbands?
I don't know if I personally would have done it, but I definitely support kids that did, just because it is their right to free speech, so they can protest at that point.
And finally, from a student's perspective, do you feel like you have the freedom of speech concerning dress code?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think the dress code is too strict to where it's it's limiting your freedom of speech. I think that there's a fine line between violating somebody's freedom of speech and what's appropriate for school.
Awesome, man. Your grade, sir?
11.
What we know now, would you have protested against the Vietnam War?
Probably not.
Probably not. Would you, therefore you wouldn't have worn the armband, correct?
Huh?
You wouldn't have worn the armband? No. From a student's perspective, do you feel like you have the freedom of speech concerning dress code?
Yeah, you definitely have freedom of speech concerning that.
Right. And your grade?
10th grade.
Knowing what we know now, would you have protested the Vietnam War?
I think I would, especially if I was there and I knew more about it, and I would be expressing my constitutional rights, and I think that's really important to be able to do, even if it had gotten me in trouble, because I would know that I had expressed my opinion and I wasn't being inhibited in doing so.
Would you have gone as far as to wear the black armbands?
I think so, because it really is a true expression of my rights, and I need to be able to express those.
Alright, and finally, from a student's perspective, do you feel like you have freedom of speech concerning dress code?
Yeah, I think we definitely have freedom of speech regarding it. I don't necessarily agree with all of the policies of it and how it's enforced, but I do think we have the ability to say something if we really want to.
Awesome, man. Your grade, ma'am?
I'm a senior.
Wish we could turn back time to the good old days when the